What to do when your fly 10s aren't flying anymore? So feed the cats, we do fly 10 stuff, quick. But like this year where we were inside until May, eventually you get to that point where you're not getting that progress that you like. Where, you know, with the timings, you know, you're knocking off a couple hundredths this week, maybe a 10th next week, and you start really chipping away. And so just like the previous two speakers, you get to the point of, crap, I've got 2 weeks in a row, this kid's coming back saying, I'm not getting faster, it's not getting better, coach, what's going on? And you got to start to experiment. Because really, what you want to avoid is this failure. And this is kind of where part of my drive comes, is this fear of failure. Like, I'm not getting you faster. I'm supposed to be the guy that does that, and I'm not doing it. So this year I hit one of these. I did a research study with Arizona State and University of Auckland with John Cronin, where we used the Lila Exogen calf sleeves, and it was about acceleration. Now, the bad thing about this is that once we got started, I could not intervene because that would wreck the studies. So I had to turn in a training program that I thought was decent, and then I had to sit and wait it out for those 8 weeks. And then if you remember, we had a couple of bumps with the weather here where we lost school for some days, kind of threw some things off a little bit. So they came out, we had 1080 data, we had timer data, and we had radar data on pre and post. And so we go through it, 8 weeks goes by, here comes the Arizona State people again, they're gonna retest. We go through, I'm thinking, yeah, the girl even said, yeah, they look good running, man, what big improvements. And then they ran the data. Yeah, it wasn't what I hoped for. Because what she said was, some people got better, some people didn't. So overall, net, no change. I'm like, shit. I went into denial. I stopped reading just that first sentence, and it took me about like 5 days before I go back and actually open up the rest of it and see what else it said. And top max velocity changed. That was a really good job, but that's not what we were testing. That's not what we were trying to do. Crap. So it really makes you rethink what you're doing. And then I have a 1080, which causes more frustration than anything because you get data back that you're not getting what you want. You pay a lot of money for that machine, and all of a sudden some of the stuff isn't coming back, and you got to think, well, what am I doing wrong where it's not happening? Because you start getting frustrated when things aren't going well, and you might start making bad decisions. You lose your patience, you start forcing things, and all of a sudden, it really doesn't go well at the end. It really doesn't come out the way that you were hoping. Because for me, that is my fear, and it happened to me this year. I like to have, that's a Saturday, you can tell by the crowd, by the way, for you non-Illinois people, that is the state track meet down in Charleston, Illinois. This is not one of Tony's pictures. Should have gotten one. I should have asked you for one of these. But you can tell by the crowd, we get a great crowd. We like to think it's the best state track meet in the country. Nobody's going to fight me on that. Nobody's going to say, no, Texas, no, no.
Haven't gone to California.
And this is Saturday, and I've got no one on the track on Saturday. So for me, that really forces me to go back and look at what I'm doing. You know, I'm not going to go with, well, you only get the kids you get. I've been pretty good about getting people to run on Saturday, and I had a lot of circumstances this year, but still, it wasn't good enough for me. So I started thinking. By the way, that is one of my 2 hallways that I do my flies in. We usually have a timing system going down the other hallway as well. And we get things going. But I think we had 8 practices outside this year before we actually got to the state meet. So that's where we had to train. So immediately, I can't have a 4x4. It's going to be hard to have a 4x2. Just because we can't get any, you can't do 23-second runs in the tiled floor because we only have so much runway because that is donated tile. Someone donated, some builder had bought too much, and so that's not like regular school tile that has a feel. That's like what you put in your kitchen. So it has a different texture, and it's not great for running on. It's really slick, especially if it's cold outside and they have the heat on inside. It creates condensation on the floor, and it gets really slippery. So it looks great for the school. I think some mafia guy donated it. There's a lot of mafia guys running through there. So we hit that point. What are we going to do to make changes? Because you want to keep that progress going. You want to make the athletes feel like they're getting better every week. Right? That's kind of the buy-in. So the basic easy thing to do is once you hit that peak, like, all right, dude, you're only running 1:0 in a fly 10. So ideally, well, we have to run 100 meters or 200 meters. You can start to increase that distance. So you can see we can't go too much further. We have to wait till we go outside to do that. But if you have more space, when you feel like you've hit that deadline, obviously you can double it out to 10 or 20, and then you challenge, well, how about you got to double your time. Your best is 1:0. See if you can get 2:0. And if they can do that, you say, well, we still need to make a max 30, right? Because that's ideally where you hold your most speed and you start to deteriorate after that point. Then you can go out to your 30. So if you have the capabilities, you can move that distance out. Another thing you can do is you can change the way you're measuring it. I did this year. I had an old radar gun, Stalker radar gun. And now on Tracking Football and some of these other places, they're going like, how fast did Leonard Fournette run when he made around the curve? Oh, we got him at 23 miles an hour, 22 miles an hour, and all that. So to give a different input, I got out the radar gun, shot him, dude, 21 miles an hour. So now it's just a different way that they can look at it. And it's a little bit different because they're going to really bust, because the way it works is it has a peak function, and when you hit your peak, it will stop measuring. It's measuring the whole way, but it's going to tell you what that peak is. So it's just a different way of looking at it, and it's a different way. So you get stuck. I still want you to run fast and try really hard. I'm just going to change that number on you and measure it a little bit differently. It actually worked really well. They really got into it, especially after you've been doing fly 10s for 14 weeks. Again, well, I can't do any more. This is all we got. One thing I'm going to try next year, and I wish I would have done this year, was I'm going to take the 1080 and I'm going to put slight resistance to it. Because my runway is so short, 14 meters, I'm not doing a true max velocity run because I'm never getting to that speed. So it's going to be some part of your acceleration. So I thought I'm going to put 2 kilos or 3 kilos or 4 kilos on the 1080, which can be you're dragging a 10-pound weight, a 15-pound weight, 30-pound weight, just so you're going to get more of that horizontal force to go through and see if you can get your 1.0 still. How many people have short run-ups for most of your season? How many people are stuck like me? It's worth trying. Ooh, Bob, you've got a 1080 too. You can try it. So from that point, I want to change something about the exercise, so I am challenging you. Because like I said, 14 weeks of fly 10s, it's not exciting anymore. I mean, it's fun to get the times and you rank, publish and all that, but from a brain standpoint, it's like, I've done this before. I've done this again. We're doing this too much. So if you look at Bosch's multi-layer model of specificity, you can change any one of these things. Tomorrow I'm going to talk more about this, but if I spend a lot of time on this, I'm not going to get to all the exercises, because I'm sure everyone wants the exercises, right? But basically, you can change your proprioception, which we're going to look at. I can change my environmental monitoring, which we're going to look at. I can change my intent, which is kind of what I did with the radar gun. I'm going to really push it. And even if you get for that one split second, 2 strides that are really fast, I'm still learning how to increase the ceiling on what I can do from a neurologic standpoint. So, you ready? Here's how I change the input. I've got some videos of this. Very simply, because of the people that we have, we cycle through, so you may go do a fly 10, and then you may go do some kind of hip exercise or whatever our periodization is, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow, where we focus on one thing and we build our whole workout around one aspect. I'm going to change the order of what goes in. So one day we may be doing flies first, but then I want that to be the last thing, maybe 2 weeks later. And I know some people do something as crazy as, I'm going to take a 20-pound dumbbell, I'm going to do 15 dumbbell curls before I go run my fly. That's a different neurologic challenge. I'm exercising here and now I have to go sprint as hard as I can. Your body's going to perceive the sum of that whole experience differently and is going to have to adapt. I fatigue out one arm a lot or something like that. You can change surface density, which is kind of what we've done. We have commandeered different materials from different parts of the building, and we threw them all over. We've got some of the cheerleading floors. Have you guys seen those blue cheerleading floors? They're kind of squishy, but yet they hold in place. We stole some of that. Stole some different mats. I went to Toys R Us and I bought some of the kids' mats to step on and made with some sticky tape to put down. But basically, what we're looking for is that when your foot hits the ground, you have to increase or speed up the rate at which the foot finds what is going on, and it has to figure out how to tense faster. So really, I'm doing this exercise that takes place in about 3/100ths of a second. In fact, Matt Van Dyke, where did Matt go? You guys are doing that at Texas now, right? You're changing the density of your flooring in different places?
Yeah, we are.
And is it working pretty well for you there?
Yeah, it's been good so far this summer.
Or you can change heights. So the simplest way to change heights without going and dragging out mats or stealing mats or going out to someone cutting up their track with your tool, your cutting tool, with the box cutter tool, when nobody's looking, you cut it out and then you throw it in the back of your car and then you drive away. If you've been to my house, you'll see pieces of different colored tracks all over, because when I find out someone's cutting up their track, I show up when they're done and I'm cutting out pieces to bring home so I can build all these surfaces on my driveway. Hey, when you own the house, you can do whatever you want, you know. My neighbors don't care, my wife doesn't say anything, so I guess I'm okay. Just wear one shoe. Right? One shoe might be that much higher. That's the perfect height to do uneven surface training. Why do we do that? Because the opposite hip has to dictate what's going on, like, oh crap, something's not there. This hip has to work harder, that ankle has to work harder, I'm stepping up. This hip has to work harder and bringing everything through. So again, I'm changing the neural input of what's going on in my reflexes. My body has to judge that. Then the next week you can come back and just put the shoes on the wrong feet. Because now I have to fight that, because shoes are curved to take you in a certain way. But now if I make you go the other way and I give you a target, you've got to fight through that and work harder to get to your toes. So again, exercises that are happening in hundredths of a second. Change your head or eye positions and change your torso positions. Field sport, team sport people, Jess, what did we figure? 30%? More than 30%? More than 30% of a game, because Jess and I were talking football, you are not lined up here. Your head might be off, your shoulders may be off, but yet how do we always practice? Straight ahead. We're going to run straight ahead. So the guy, the wide receiver, who's going down the thing, and you're thinking, oh, quick 6 man, look at this, and then he turns, all of a sudden, damn quarterback overthrew the ball again. No, he didn't overthrow the ball. The dude loses all of his speed as soon as he takes his torso off his legs, and the ball gets overthrown. Plus, when I change my torso and I change my neck, or I even change my eyes, it changes the tension throughout your body. Maybe not on a major muscular level, but it certainly changes the fascia. And so we have to teach the fascia how to move with all that. So if I'm a 4-4 here, I want to be a 4-5 here. But if we don't time it and we don't challenge it, they're never going to know. And I'm going to show you a video of this in a little bit. And it was amazing what I found this year. I had a good thing going this year. I had a football team that I could do all the testing on because it was my last year, so why not? And a regular track team where I could try this on. Because everyone was getting kicked off the team and everything, so I'm out of people. So, I'm getting desperate, man. I got to try some stuff here to try and put something together. You can add weight to one side. So what I found works really well with the calf sleeves. Did anyone buy the Lilogen calf sleeves? So I'm talking to you. But Mike Kennedy knows this because we worked on this, and he actually did physics problems. He comes to my house and does physics problems on my basement wall to explain everything to me, why everything works. The calf sleeves are great, but I found out they work much better if you just wear one. Just on one side, because like Mike and I saw, and we've got film, we did all kinds of cool stuff with it. If this leg is heavy, and what's the law, Mike?
Concentration back and momentum. So the moment of inertia of one side is higher than the other.
That's right. So it has to even out. So if this leg is going slower, I'm not repeating that. Although the formula is still up on the wall in the basement. If this leg is going slower, this leg has to go faster. There's no way around it. It has to. So think about that. If this leg is going faster, and what we've seen on film, and I'll show you, this knee pops way up. And if you want to try and train a true knee drive, what better way to do it than to use the reflex and all the energy that's coiled up in that hip flexor to snap right up again. Then, Mike and I had the idea, and by the way, it's his son that not my son, but his son that we are guinea pigging on. We did arm sleeve and leg on the same side. And then we did the math. He did the math. I just shook my head like this and said, great. And it worked even better, didn't it? Science.
Try laying on one side, arm on the other side?
Doesn't work. It balances. We found that out too, didn't we? We tried it. He actually did the math and said, it's not going to work. I said, let's try it anyway. And we look at yeah, it doesn't work.
Chris, if you did it heavier on one side and lighter on the other.
It balances out. So just we spent a whole day doing this, didn't we, Mike?
Yeah, Quinn had to run this a million times.
Yeah, Quinn ran it a million times, but and so if you don't like the Lilogen things, Joey figured out a way to make the calf sleeve for what, $3?
Yeah, just real weights with Velcro and just your calf sleeves.
Yeah, so he bought the weights that you balance your motorcycle tires out with and put it in Velcro and put it on calf sleeve because it's only 500 grams, 300 to 500 grams that we're playing with. That cost him a couple bucks. I was a sucker and spent all the money on it. Change your vision, change where your eyes are, or take part of your vision away. I'm going to show you this film in a second. And I think I put this, my goal at New Year's is I was going to try and do something on social media at least 2 times a week. That lasted a week. Sorry. Dribbling glasses. So I'm going to take away what you see below so you don't know what's going on. And I'm going to go over all the different surfaces. Now I'm forcing a faster response time from your foot to your brain, which means I have to co-contract and pre-tense that foot faster, which means my foot is going to be even more springy. And I actually jacked up a kid. I took an entire 10th off of a kid's flight 10 time just by wearing the dribbling glasses that I got on Amazon for $3. And then he got drunk and showed up at a track meet and threw up all over the place. And then he was gone. You guys don't believe me. It was worse than that because it's St. Patrick's Day. Our conference track meet was at University of Chicago on St. Patrick's Day. You know, you have to be there to meet at a certain time. I'm venting. I'm sorry. I just can't get this out of my system. The kid's got 3 All-State medals going into his senior year. He's All-State sophomore, All-State junior. So he shows up with 15 minutes before his race in 4x2 at University of Chicago. He didn't look right. He wouldn't come close to me because I could probably smell it on him. Spiked the hell out of some kid trying to warm up. I mean, gashed him because he can't control his body. Ran the 4x2, not off the track, on the track. And there it was. That's a lot of beer. You're done. Sorry. That's embarrassing for everyone. But what else we did, and this is going to be my December thing, is I bought prism glasses, and I change your input, and I can change your form based on where I bend the light. And that's going to be my December thing. I'm working on that now with my son, the drone guy. We're droning video from the top and watching you run when I bend light different ways, or I can make you think the ground comes sooner, so you're going to pedal down harder. So I'm messing with that. I have to get all my son's friends. I pay them $20 because I don't want to mess up my son's brain because this might mess up their brain. So I'm going to dump that on someone else. I didn't know. Come on. Kids will do anything worth $20 now. So here, what does this look like? We are doing flies. He's a wide receiver. He's actually ran a really good 40 at one of these combine things. So there's a lot going on there. So we're doing our flies in a twisted position. He's a wide receiver. He is a deep guy. And so he's got to get fast doing that. Now, if I wanted to challenge that even more, I'm going to put the weight on, and you can see it, it's kind of coming off there. I put the weight on his left leg. So now his spine has to co-contract even faster, and his hip has to work harder for him to hold that speed. And the first time we did this, there was a drastic difference between their fly 10 time and we called it a turn time. Drastic. And if Jess is right, and I know he is, if you're slow more than 30% of your game, you're not game fast. So like I said, this is my football team here. We're not running tracks, so we got to a point where we were done with our flies, and I said, you know what, let's get more football specific here and let's start running at angles. So we would do head, we would do torsos, and make all kinds of changes.
Is that a gaze instruction or just keep head?
We're trying to look to the side. But you know, you start turning, you start putting your eyes back, it gets even harder. And what then we're challenging is our peripheral vision. 90% of what's going on is in your periphery, and that's what your body's really going through and figuring out the noise. And my thought is that really it's your peripheral vision that can shut you down. Where you're not sure of what's going on, you're going to go, that's scary, I don't know what's going on, I'm going to run slower. So that's another thing that we're trying to train there is, can I eliminate the fear of what I don't know? Because part of me thinks that we're all fast, it's just there are limiting factors in our brain out of fear of getting hurt that we shut our body down. So that's kind of why I think Bo Jackson got hurt, is I don't think he had any governors on his body. That nothing told him to slow down or not be powerful. Which is why you break your own hip. But you can also do a backflip in a pool. You can throw a ball through an entire house. All the Bo Jackson stories is why he could do that, I think. So if we can dampen that fear response, I mean, think about it. When you're skiing and you know you're going too fast, what's the first thing you do? You either snowplow or you start to sink down. Or if I jump up on this box and I know, crap, that's too high, what's the first thing I do? I shorten the distance by coming down here, and then I'm going to drop from here without even thinking about it. So there's this innate fear response that shuts down what our body does. So by doing all this stuff, I am trying to eliminate the peripheral fear so I can take the governor off your speed thing. That's really what I'm trying to do. And you think about think about this, when you're running through a forest, are you looking down for the branches and stuff? How many people are not running through forests frequently? Let's say we went and ran through a forest. Are you going to look down and see what you're stepping on? Yeah. But when I take my dogs out, and Cal and I talk about this, we have different dogs. He has hunting dogs that go get things. My dogs actually go get things. But yeah, it's fun to watch him run through the forest, right? Do you ever see your dog? Where'd Cal go?
Running through the forest.
Do you ever see your dog look down when she's going for a bird? Never. Their peripheral vision is so great that they know where everything is, and you never see them misstep. You never see them trip. They know where everything is. They've eliminated that fear because their peripheral and their hearing cue all that in and say, yeah, we're good to go. Charge.
Yeah, in team sports, ACL rates skyrocket when gaze is directed toward an object, toward something else, and not when you're looking, and that's a big factor with that as well.
And so why is that? Because our body is trying to protect things further up the chain. So it's going to give up the knee before it gives up the hip, right? So it's going to shut down and say, yeah, screw it, give up the knee, this doesn't feel right, I'm scared, pop. Sorry, I diverged. We will work our weaknesses for time. So what we did this year is we identified one thing that we wanted to work on. Like this year, our toe off sucked. Our feet were all over the place coming out of football season. So we spent a good 4 weeks doing fly 10s with no arms. If I take your arms away, I have to drive through to my big toe because I don't have rudders to balance. The sum of all my energy has to be forward through my foot. So we did fly 10s with no arms. We did fly 10s. We had some guys who had horrible hips. We did fly 10s with hands overhead. I call them French runs because the French always surrender. And Frankenstein runs. If I need to work hips up more, I'm going to bring my hands up here. How many people know this kid that's leaning way too far? If I take your hands out, I've unbalanced you and I've got to center myself more, but not overdoing it. So here we are doing this is one of my good kids this year. He's been a great kid for 4 years. He's going to be running back at Illinois. He's rocking the baby a little bit too much for me.
So Chris, do you want to keep your shoulders square and still stop?
Yeah, because I am trying to get rid of, so your body moves to the sum of your target. And so it's going to dictate where that foot is pushing from. So if he's getting this, he is getting some drive from his shoulders to go forward. The rule is you can't rock the baby. So you've got to keep this locked so when it's going to force my foot to drive more forward. So I try to lock it down the best that I can. What's that?
What the kids on the stairs do.
Screwing around. That's how we screw around in Montini. No, they're doing, we were doing drops, backward drops down the stairs. So you work your way to run your exercise. So there's a series of exercises that you go throughout the hallway. Yeah?
How much slower on average were these?
Initially, a lot. But then you just take that concept of once you start putting those numbers up and you rank them and publish them, people want to go. So when we came out of this, and we didn't do regular fly 10s for 3 weeks, we came back, we got some really nice drops. And again, this is a kid that's run for me for 4 years. I got to give him something different because I don't want to give him the same workout that I gave him when he was a freshman. I'm not making his brain get any better. I'm not increasing the ceiling of what he can do. I've not eliminated any of the fears for what he can do. Another thing I do, especially when we drill, is I start to reinforce some RPR stuff. A lot of people are neck drivers. How do you take someone out of neck driving? You can sing, you have to say the alphabet, you can rap whatever you want, but I want voice to come out. When we're doing our drills, I want everyone talking. Because that way I know we've reset ourselves, and that way I know the psoas and glutes are doing the work, and I'm not trying to go back into some driver like my jaw or my arm. So we're always talking. Also, if you shake your head no, you can't lock in your neck, and you have to drive through here. So when we do drills, we shake. We'll go through, okay, everyone sing, okay, everyone shake. Some kind of thing that I know that they are driving from their psoas and their glute.